All right, today we're diving into the stories of Catholic saints. And let me tell you, their paths stretching across two entire millennia are way more diverse and honestly surprising than you might think. It really does sound like the setup to a punchline, right? But it's a real question. And the answer, well, it connects ancient Galilee to modern-day Italy, and it shows us this incredible, powerful thread of human purpose that's been running through history for centuries. So here's our game plan. We'll start with the big picture of sainthood. Then we'll meet the very first messengers who helped build the church. After that, we'll look at some lives of just radical service, meet saints for our own digital age, and finally, we'll unpack why their legacy is still so important. Okay, so what does it actually take to be called a saint? Well, in the Catholic Church, it's not just a nice title. It means that person has been officially recognized as being in heaven, someone whose life is a proven example of just heroic goodness, a life worth imitating. And when you look at these lives, from the dusty roads of the Roman Empire all the way to the digital highways of the internet, you get this really powerful message. There's no single mold for holiness. And that diversity is so important because it shows that a life of deep faith is possible for anyone at any time. So, where do we even begin? Well, it makes sense to go right back to the start with this small group of pretty ordinary people who were called to do something absolutely extraordinary: carry the Christian message to the world for the very first time. And what I find so fascinating about this is the variety you see right from day one. You've got fishermen like Peter and Andrew, then you have this highly educated Pharisee, Paul, and even an explorer like Thomas, who took his mission all the way to India. I mean, their deaths were often brutal, but their missions literally changed the world. And this right here is such a perfect example of two totally different kinds of leadership. You've got Peter, the rock, the insider from the very beginning, and then you have Paul, who started out as an enemy, a persecutor, who had this dramatic conversion and became maybe the most influential missionary of all time. And it's the little details that really bring these stories to life. Take Andrew, Peter's brother. He didn't just face death, he shaped it, asking for a different kind of cross out of pure humility. And then there's Jude Thaddeus, whose name literally means courageous heart, and he totally lived up to it, preaching in some of the most dangerous places imaginable. But okay, being a saint isn't just about being a messenger. For a lot of these figures, it was about a radical life of service. It was about rolling up their sleeves and dedicating their entire lives to others, often in the face of poverty, sickness, and war. It was about action. 24. Just let that number sink in for a second. That's how old Pier Giorgio Frassati was when he died. It's a shockingly young age, but what he managed to pack into those 2 decades is just astounding. Think about it. This guy came from a super prominent, wealthy Italian family. He could have had a life of total comfort, but instead, he chose something completely different. He spent his time with the city's most vulnerable. He really shows us that service can be a choice, giving up privilege to care for others. And then you have this other kind of radical service, one that just blows past all borders. Mother Teresa said it best herself with this quote. She didn't see herself as belonging to any one place, but to a global mission of compassion for the absolute poorest of the poor. So her journey really kicks off with this incredibly powerful experience on a train, something she called a call within a call. And that moment led her to found the Missionaries of Charity and dedicate her whole life to serving people who were forgotten by society in Calcutta. It was work that, as we know, was eventually recognized with the Nobel Peace Prize. And service doesn't always have to be on a global stage. Sometimes it's about quiet strength, about perseverance when things are really, really tough. St. Alphonse of India had a difficult childhood and was sick for much of her life, but through it all, she became this incredible source of inspiration and eventually the very first woman from India to be canonized. Okay, so this all sounds great for history, right? But what about now? In our world of smartphones, social media, and video games, can you even be a saint in the 21st century? The answer is a huge, resounding yes. And this is where Carlo Acutis comes in. I mean, what a perfect model for today. By recognizing him, the church is basically sending this message loud and clear: holiness is possible right here, right now. A figure like Carlo is so important because he shows young people that you don't have to choose between a life of faith and a modern tech-filled life. And this quote from him, it just says it all. He didn't see faith as this old, dusty, complicated thing. For him, the Eucharist was his highway to heaven. It was fast, direct, and it was getting him somewhere. It's such a modern and powerful way to think about it. And this is why he connects with so many people. He was a teenager. He loved soccer, he played video games, and he was a computer programmer. But here's the key. He didn't see those things as distractions from his faith. He saw them as tools for his faith. He actually used his programming skills to build websites that cataloged miracles, basically turning the internet into his mission field. Now, just for a second, let's jump back in time, way back to the 15th century, to St. Ignatius of Loyola. It seems like a totally different world, right? But check this out. They were separated by centuries, but they shared the exact same core principle, summed up in Ignatius's motto, to the greater glory of God. Whether you're founding a religious order or building a website, the motivation can be exactly the same. So, when you put it all together, why do these stories still matter so much? Why do we keep telling them? Well, because they're way more than just history lessons. They are active, living sources of inspiration and guidance, woven into the fabric of daily faith. One of the biggest ways they live on is through this idea of the patron saint. This is where a saint becomes a kind of special guardian for a specific group of people, or a place, or even a cause, and it's usually something that's directly connected to their own life story. And it just makes sense, right? St. Thomas, the guy who traveled all the way to India and literally built churches, becomes the patron saint for architects and builders. And St. Jude, the apostle known for his courageous heart, becomes the patron of impossible situations, the one people turn to when things feel hopeless. I want to leave you with one more quote from our modern-day Saint Carlo Acutis, and it's a real challenge, I think, to all of us. He said that we're all born as unique originals, but that so many of us end up living our lives as just photocopies of each other. And that's really the question all of these stories leave us with, isn't it? When you look at all of them, the fisherman, the nun, the programmer, none of them were photocopies. They were all originals. They lived authentic lives, driven by a powerful purpose. So it makes you wonder, what will make your life an original?
A prayer to the saints for spiritual guidance. O holy saints of God, faithful witnesses of Christ's love, you who walked the path of light before us, guide our steps in the way of truth.
Teach us to listen with humble hearts, to discern the whispers of the Spirit, and to walk with courage in times of doubt. May your example inspire us to live with compassion, to serve with joy, and to honor the Creator in all creation.
Stand beside us in our struggles, intercede for us in our weakness, and lead us ever closer to the heart of Jesus. Amen.